next. This is an email in from Paula. She emailed us at questions@askjoedimatteo.com, where you can email us too. What vitamins are helpful in recovering from a frozen shoulder brought on by a shot in the arm? How should future shots be administered to avoid this? I'd never even heard of that. Is that a normal thing that a shot could give you a frozen shoulder?
So yeah, frozen shoulder, I guess technically it is possible.
Right.
But you just want to make sure that it's actually frozen shoulder and that you're not just saying, I have frozen shoulder.
Adhesive capulitis.
Yes.
Adhesive capsulitis.
Yes, which is a legitimate diagnosis. And so it would take a thorough workup from your physician or your physical therapist, potentially some imaging, excuse me. I don't even really know if you can see on imaging if that's exactly what's causing it. But essentially there's something with the tissue musculature that causes almost like contracture or like pulling together of like the shoulder capsule.
Okay.
And so without going crazy in depth into the, the anatomy of the shoulder, it obviously just sounds like a pretty nasty thing to have to deal with.
Yeah.
In reference to it specifically, again, being caused by a vaccine, that's tough to say.
You almost would say like nerve damage, or it would hit like a nerve or something, not an entire capsule issue.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Because I mean, for the most part, anytime I've had an immunization, I've had a stiff shoulder. It's been painful. There's been some muscle pain. You almost feel like your movement's restricted.
Right.
It can extend past a few days, a week maybe.
Yeah.
And then eventually it kind of goes away. So I guess, again, not to harp on this, but you want to just delineate if this is actually adhesive capsulitis versus just, man, my shoulder's pretty jacked up after the shot.
Exactly.
Yeah. She didn't say it was a vaccination, just as a shot. But I know, I've had, it was a tetanus that always makes your arm feel awful.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's entirely, it seems... It would be surprising if the actual injection is what caused frozen shoulder, because that's typically caused by radically different things.
And usually takes 12 to 18 months to resolve.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just trying to do some supportive things. It actually gets worse. In the first, period of time for the first few months. So I don't know. There's just a lot of things that aren't adding up.
Yeah.
This sounds very acute, whereas frozen shoulder is not acute in the sense that it happens right away. It kind of gradually gets worse. There's just a few things that don't quite check out if it's shot related.
Right.
Yeah. There's just some interesting things I came across as well, kind of in reference to what Joey's saying. Usually it's somebody maybe who presents with frozen shoulder. They may have had a history of like rotator cuff injury, something maybe that's historically happened to the shoulder, broken arm, something along those lines. Maybe they had a surgery. Stroke is even a potential factor here for some people. And then there's even certain systemic diseases that I guess are associated with this as well. So individuals with diabetes are way more likely to have it. Overactive thyroid, underactive thyroid, cardiovascular disease, Parkinson's disease. There's all kinds of things. And I don't want to get lost in separate from her kind of question, because there very well may be a link between the specific shot that she got and the frozen shoulder, if it is in fact an actual, the actual diagnosis.
But she should be seeking further diagnosis, because
I would,
based on what you're hearing, it doesn't make direct sense. This isn't a normal causation.
Yes, it does seem odd. And then,
so there could be something else going on that she's not aware of.
Sure, exactly. And then even if it is frozen shoulder, let's just say, it's not a helpless sort of situation. A lot of times it does take some time. Like Joey said, it can be self-limiting, take care of itself. Oftentimes individuals, just from doing some basic movement on their own, it can resolve. They can go to physical therapy, and you can actually have somebody begin to, do more manual therapy, which if you have frozen shoulder, I'm sure it doesn't feel very good to have that done. I mean, you can go as far as surgical procedures. There's a whole host of things that you can do, kind of medically or even from a physical therapy standpoint as well. And then I don't know if Joey has anything to add.
You can even do like cortisone injections. I mean, if if it's really bothering you, and it's something that, again, we had talked about those in a prior episode, but not something you want to do all the time. But yeah, if it's bothering you that much and you're having trouble with the range of motion, which we would certainly have you do more natural, get this thing moving. Cortisone injections can at least give you some relief.
Okay. So anything that she should do specifically, just dealing with shoulder pain, such as it is, even if we're assuming it's not directly frozen shoulder.
Yeah. I think some things for inflammation, just in case it's not, frozen shoulder and it's just sore shoulder for whatever reason. Maybe it's related to the shot. Maybe it's just not frozen shoulder. We keep going around in that circle. But back to turmeric, anti-inflammatory, and fish oils. Just classic anti-inflammatories, I think, for that is definitely what I would do. And see if any relief is garnered from that. If no relief is gained, then maybe it's more likely to be, kind of the frozen shoulder, versus if it was more just like a typical type of pain or injury.
Okay. All right. Makes sense.
Yeah. And the last thing, this is kind of an aside to this. Just as somebody who gives immunizations, it seems like such a routine thing to do at this point. You see people of all shapes, sizes, genders, and such. And so some people have a little more tissue there.
Yep.
Some people don't. Some people have just, larger deltoids or an area that you have a more easy place to aim, let's just say.
Right.
So, there's a chance that this has nothing to do with the specific shot that she got. Maybe they administered it a little high. Maybe it was a little low. Maybe they grabbed a 1.5 inch needle instead of a 1 inch needle, and they have limited tissue. That's seemingly like worst case. Because there's the potential. Like, think about getting a cortisone injection. Like, it goes directly into the capsule of your shoulder. Now you have to. That takes some skill to do that. Yeah. So I doubt that your pharmacist accidentally gave you an intra-articular injection.
Yeah.
But at the same time, just hitting the wrong spot, a nerve, too short of a needle, too long of a needle, those things matter, and that can contribute to maybe the duration of the symptoms that she's having.
Yeah.
So is there any, like she said, where should shots go in the future to avoid that? Is there somewhere in particular?
Yeah. There's as far as specifically on the arm,
I guess, yeah. Or posterior, or, are there other areas that injections can go?
I think, with kind of your run of the mill shots, immunizations, your deltoid is probably the only place they're going to.
I don't think there's any reason to believe that there's long-term issues with her getting shots.
Yeah, switch arms.
Yeah,
maybe next time do your dominant arm if she didn't, little things like that, or just come to the medicine shop instead.
There it is.
We had to aim for the.
I think Dante was saying that there's maybe more of a mistake that happened, one time versus that she's got a problem, that's going to recur.
Well, and probably evidence of that is the fact that this is probably not the first injection she's ever gotten.
Yeah.
But this sounds like this is the first time this has ever happened.
Yeah, and you don't want to discount it. There's easily a nerve could have been hit. It's who knows?
Yeah.
But try to keep it moving and see, and just do sorts of movements, again, just with the classic exercise spiel. Just find the entry point of things that aren't overly painful.
Yeah.
So if that's just literally trying to get your arm up over your head as high as you can and stopping it and holding it there, and then over the next 2 days trying to find something that's pushes it a little more. And then at that point, if you notice that nothing is helping, that goes back to just trying to seek some more professional help.